Yeah, we're not going to use the camera's audio. Shouldn't burp into the mic.
Get it out. Get it out now.
And go. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Fake Philosophers. Today is a little segment we like to call Poli-Tickle. It's a working title or a confirmed title. We haven't decided. I guess that's the definition of working title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, this being the first time we've ever tried this, we're just kind of just winging it here. The idea being, no one wants to listen to the same thing all the time, so we thought we'd try different segmented episodes, and we're going to try a bit of a political discussion kind of thing. I know, not a lot of political discussion out there, so it'll be kind of rare. And
it's not the time for it, Mitch. It's just not the time for
it. No one cares.
No one cares.
There's nothing really as divisive as politics these days, to be honest. So we were hoping, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong here. This is Danny, by the way. And,
Hi.
I'm Michael Glenny. No, my name is Mitch Burke. And we were hoping, because a lot of times Danny and I find ourselves chatting and realizing, oh my God, we disagree on this. Why don't we hate each other? Why aren't we unfriended? Why aren't we blocked yet?
Because we love each other.
Because we love each other.
That's as deep as it goes. Like we recognize the differences, and that's what makes us so great together. I think is that we can go weeks without talking to each other, come back and just be like nothing ever happened. There was no break. We just pick up where we left off. And the same thing happens when we're talking about politics. We can talk about politics. I don't think we've ever gotten heated, but we've definitely had disagreements.
I would be surprised if you've ever read one of my weird posts and not gotten heated and pissed off and like, this guy's a fucking idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then, but we don't just blast each other on Facebook comment and then whatever. It's more of like how I think healthy people should do is say, hey, you said this, do you want to talk about it? Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm just trying to get a perspective kind of thing, which I think I've personally been trying to promote for a while, is people just talking to each other rather than
start a dialogue,
rather than just commenting and posting. Political debate is often just data swapping. You're going to cite some website you agree with. You're going to post some quote from some professional that you agree with, and then they're going to quote some professional they agree with, and then you're back to nothing. So we were hoping with this segment to be more of just a discussion kind of thing. We're probably we're not going to agree on most things. We're probably not going to disagree on a lot, but we'll just see. So a little background. Danny, how would you describe yourself? Because we're so polarized, binary, two-party, whatever, which I know you're a big fan of in this country. How would you describe yourself if you were on Bumble and you were entering in your base? What would you say?
6'2", athletic.
Athletic bullshit.
Athletic.
I'd buy the 6'2". I kind of define myself politically as a constitutional idealist. Nice.
I believe that the Constitution is the end all be all. What it says is what it is. Mm-hmm. You can interpret it any way you want. At the end of the day, it is what it says. That being said, I lean heavily to the left, but I would define myself as kind of a moderate liberal. But I do have some traditional conservative values as well. So, and we'll get into that as we progress through this. What my conservative beliefs are, as well as my liberal beliefs.
Yeah, I would describe myself as a more conservative Republican. Same kind of thing, like core values and those evil patriarchs, founding fathers, that and the horrible ideas that they had. But no, I say I've read a lot. Really, I've read a couple books and I liked them, but I don't know shit. I like to take the Bill Burr approach. Like I don't read. I don't know shit. Don't you know? It's just what I think. But yeah, I describe myself as more right of center. I say that I'm more moderate in the discussion, if that makes any sense. Like I'm open minded to it. And if I'm wrong, I want to be shown that I'm wrong. I don't want to walk around being wrong. That sounds terrible. So cool. Well. Right. I'm sure we'll get a lot more into details about what we believe, what we think, in various topics, because that's ought to be how it should be. But today, I think we're gonna kick it off with a little hot button topic, something that's just recently come in. There's this been thing going around called the coronavirus, the COVID-19.
Is this a new thing?
Yes, it's a new thing.
Okay.
It's in the history of America sense. Yes, it's a new thing.
Okay.
History of the world thing. But anyway, with the vaccine out, things are starting to reopen. The issue of masks now becoming back into the forefront of a discussion here. Is it good to wear it? Is it not good to wear it? Are you allowed to wear it? Whatever. So oddly enough, this became political.
Very.
Republicans tended to not want masks at all. Democrats wanted to hide behind masks all the time. No, I'm joking. No. But it oddly, like everything, becomes political, and everyone has to take a side. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, awesome. Would you like to begin?
I've been talking a lot.
You have. Okay. So off camera, me and Mitch kind of started this discussion. We decided it would be good to kind of do it on camera. We kind of started off talking about like our positions on it, where we kind of fall in line on the issue. And I'll just go ahead and state that I don't disagree with mask mandates. Where I kind of find it a gray area would be in like an outdoor public setting. And I've kind of run into this issue, and I've kind of butted heads with fellow liberals about this. Is if you're in an open outdoor space, maintaining social distancing, keeping that six feet separation, I don't think there is any need for a mask in that instance. You are doing other things to protect yourself.
Yeah, what's cool is I don't think there's been a law that mandated that. Like, you know, there's been like suggestions like you should wear a mask all the time, but there, as far as I know, other than Burbank was the only city I knew where if you're outside, you can get fined for not wearing a mask.
Wow.
It was unreal. And, you know, someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure because it made the news that the mayor issued a third party, he didn't call it law enforcement, but it was like a code enforcement kind of thing, that they could issue tickets to people not wearing. So I'm already like, you know,
man, it's a great way to build revenue.
Oh man. I was already like grabbing my gun, getting ready for the revolution and stuff. But I was like, okay, great. Yeah. A third party law enforcement thing to go around and make you wear and fine you for wearing a mask. That was like the only case of something like that. And I'm sure there was some lawsuits there, but, so yeah, I mean, I think that was a good common sense everyone kind of had. It's like, hey, if we're outside, if we're alone, if we're driving alone, if we're walking our dog, I'm not going to wear a mask. And you should, and no one's going to hold you against if you wanted to wear a mask. It's up to you, whatever you want. Now let's get into businesses.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll get into churches and schools and get more into it. But my opinion was that if a business says, hey, you have to wear a mask if you want to come in, then you don't have to come in. You can wear a mask and go in, or you don't have to come in. The kind of hot topic on that is the government forcing a business to enforce a mask mandate.
Now, it's I think, I don't know for sure, but I believe it is, there's no government mandate that's ordering businesses to require masks. I mean, maybe during the height of the pandemic, but as we're, you know, coming out of it, I think, especially within the last week, I think businesses are allowed to relax standards.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a private business. They are allowed to do whatever they essentially want to conduct their business.
So do you think? Okay, let's go back a year.
Okay.
Do you think the government requiring businesses to enforce a mask mandate in order to stay open? Do you think that's okay? A good example of that is restaurants.
Yeah, restaurants. I mean, because there is such a risk factor for transmission. You're not only talking about from like customer to customer. We're talking about from staff to customer,
absolutely.
chef to customer.
Yeah.
I think yes, a mask mandate in like a restaurant or like maybe even like a small convenience store. I think yes, that I'm okay with that. One, a mask doesn't really inhibit anything on the person wearing
It really doesn't.
I mean, there have been numerous videos of people like running miles in a mask, doing the LA Marathon in a mask. And like, first of all, if you're doing the LA Marathon, you're already breathing in stuff you shouldn't be breathing in. So, I mean, it's not a big deal for me if the government wants to mandate a mask during a pandemic like the one we had and are still in, essentially. But like in terms of like private homes or public outdoor spaces, like if I'm going to the beach, right, I don't want to wear a mask at the beach. I don't think I should have to wear a mask at the beach because you're talking about parts per million here.
Yeah. Well, another discussion is the fact that a lot of cities closed beaches, especially in LA County because of transmission. And it's like, that's a whole other thing, I think. But it's a weird dance because there's a great, you have to find where the line is. Because it goes into health safety with just food handling.
Yeah.
The letter grades you get on restaurants. It's a matter of thing. It's a thing that the government regulates to make sure that we the people are safe, and it's one thing that I'm happy to pay taxes for is to make sure that there's an entity to make sure that the food I'm eating is safe. Should a restaurant get a B rating because one of the chef's food handler card is expired, which does happen? That I disagree with.
I disagree with that
but I also think they should be washing their hands like they should and have a problem. So the question is whether masks are something that qualifies to shut a business down or something. And
I would say for like a first offense, probably not.
Yeah, right.
But like if it's like an issue that is like continually happening, and like, you get, an inspector in there, and he like is constantly coming in, and seeing that they're not conforming to the new rules and mandates, then I think after maybe like 3 or 5 violations. Yeah, it's time to close the doors.
Mike, if you can you Google that restaurant that just defied all the orders?
Yeah, and they like shut it down. Yeah,
they tried to shut it down several times, and it was one of those things where I'm like, I definitely see both sides on this. I'm torn.
It was a small, like little, like wooden shack of a
restaurant.
It up.
Yeah, it was some. It was
hard to find one because there's been like.
There's been
No, there's one that keeps popping up.
I want to say in California. I want to say it's like towards like the central.
It's in LA area, but anyway, this restaurant was just saying, "Screw you" to all the regulations. We're not shutting down. We're remaining at full business. They got cited. I think they finally got evicted, but they were getting fees thrown at them. They shut their power off, and they got a generator. They were just staying open, defying everything. Whereas my libertarian side is like, you know what? Yeah, you do you. And the government's there to kind of help, and you're just doing you. The other side of me is like, well, you're free to do what you want and pay the consequences for it. So
that's the thing. Like everybody's like, yeah, we have all these freedoms. You're right. You absolutely do have the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you're not free from consequence.
Absolutely. You get into the freedom of speech thing when you can say, you should be allowed to say whatever you want. And your employer has a right to fire you for saying it.
Exactly.
It's when the government comes in and fines you for saying something or arrests you for saying something, we really have a problem. But let people and businesses react how they want.
Exactly.
How are we doing on time there, Mike? Okay. Thumbs up. I think that means
I'll let you know.
we're done. Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right.
No, you're fine.
We're fine?
We're done? So we can stop right now.
Stop.
No,
Oh.
you're fine. Like you're good. Just keep talking.
Are we boring yet?
No, I think you're fine.
I think we're good. I think that was pretty good.
Okay. I'm trying to think of some good counterpoints. I always like to try to think of the counterpoints for the masks or against the masks or whatever. Any topic really, to see what the opposition would say. What are these anti-maskers all about? And that is, I mean, one could say it's a freedom of expression. If you need to find hard data to prove that we need to wear a mask, which again, we can go to the professional we agree with and see what stats they cite.
I mean, it seems pretty obvious that wearing a mask does limit the spray that comes out of your mouth when you talk. That seems pretty obvious to me. But there are, there's always going to be people that say, no, it doesn't. There's always going to be something that transmits out of you when you talk. I'm like, maybe. But then there's these people that say, well, it limits my breathing. And while like a mask can be stifling, I don't think it limits the breathing as much as these people claim it does. Like it's, especially like if you're like, I can't imagine running a mile in one.
Yeah.
But I know that people have done that.
Yeah. The point I always try to bring up to be an anti-masker in front of the faces of the really hardcore maskers, because it's fun to me. It's funny to me to watch them freak out.
Yeah.
The point I always make, because I saw it in a meme, so it must be true. If you're sitting down next to someone and they fart, that fart made it through past gravity, through underwear, through jeans, up through probably a shirt, and you smell it. How is a mask going to prevent you from a disease if you can smell a fart? Just all the path that it went through. How do these masks work? And it's one of those common sense things that people are like, well, okay. But
well, I mean, and to that point, what I would say is, and I am not a doctor. I have no PhDs whatsoever. What I would say is it's a fluid transmission. When you fart, hopefully no fluid is coming out. What you are smelling is simply just the
you're
gas.
smelling microscopic pieces of shit.
Yes, that is exactly what you're smelling.
And if that made it through a mask or boxers or jeans or whatever, then somehow the mask is going to protect you from this suddenly the deadliest disease ever wrought on humanity.
They were droplets that they were worried about.
Yeah,
droplets. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, fluid.
Right. So that then obviously the common sense argument to that is, well, look, it's not going to stop everything.
No.
It greatly reduces my favorite term that they've been using, the viral load.
Dropping
loads. Oh my God. Politicians have been saying viral load
with no
all the
irony.
time.
No irony.
Every teenager in the world's like, it's the best thing ever. Viral load. So that's the point to be made to that is that yeah, well, it's not going to stop everything.
Yeah.
It was never meant to stop everything. It's meant to block the major droplets and stop it there. Cool. What other thing? Body shaming. You're covering up the face, and they want to express who they are. You see this kind of argument in schools with uniforms. You know, people don't want to wear uniforms because somehow it's sexist. You can't make me wear a mask because I feel inhibited. I feel restricted, and the government is making me cover who I am.
Okay. I would side with that if that was the intent of wearing the mask. If it was just to
bullshit coming out of my mouth on that one.
Wear your mask because we don't want to see your fucking face.
Yeah.
If that was the intent of the government, I'd be like, well, fuck you. No, I'm not going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
By the way, we cuss on this show.
We'll censor it later.
Viewer discretion is advised.
It's PG.
So I mean, but yeah, if that was the intent, I would totally be like, I'm not wearing a mask. That is not the intent. The intent is to slow the spread of a deadly virus. And so yeah,
let me cut you off there with your common sense. I got another one for you.
With my common sense.
I definitely read this. I won't say who or where. Sharia law requires females to cover their face in public, and this mask is really just an Islamic agenda to get us used to covering our faces because it's a sign of modesty, like we should.
To that, I would say, why aren't they just making women wear masks?
Because that'd be sexist.
There's no sexism in Sharia law.
Gotta ease into it.
Okay, yeah. Do you have any other?
They did say in May that men could stop wearing masks.
Oh, they did. Cool. Okay.
It's really funny because me and my girlfriend have been watching The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, God. Okay.
Which is essentially it's what happens when Sharia law is instituted in, or like so what happened in the book and in the show is like America like splits and part of the country becomes this like super ultra conservative their own country, and they institute Sharia law. Not necessarily what we would call.
Do they call it Sharia law?
No,
or is it it's just for talking?
It's essentially like a theocracy.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is a government that is created by the Bible, and from biblical teachings. And I watched the first episode with my girlfriend. I'm like, dude, this is Sharia law. Like, it's not Muslim, but it might as well be. And it was just like, so like, yeah, we've just been going back and forth. I'm like, what is Sharia law? And is it the same as this? I'm like, it's not too far away from this.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just like, whenever I watch that show, I get so fucking pissed off. Like, I just get so frustrated and so angry.
It's just that bad? Or?
Well, no, it's a really good show in terms of like how it makes you think. But just like the ideas that they're like putting on the screen and like the way they're presenting stuff, it's like one of those things where it's like you never hope that happens.
Right. Okay.
Because like 50% of the population loses every right they have guaranteed to them by the Constitution of the United States.
Wow.
And
yeah, my wife watches it and she really enjoys it. She gets super stressed out by it.
Yeah.
But,
it's very stress inducing.
But, you know, I remember like one of the first times, like she first started watching it and she told me, it was back when we were dating, and she's like, you know, yeah, it's weird because I could see a lot of those policies like happening. I can do that. And I was like, in the era of Me Too, I really don't think so. But okay, I mean, maybe. I mean,
no, I mean it's something hopefully like we will never see in our lifetimes.
Gotcha. Is it more of like, hey, this could have happened if the government was truly founded on a theocracy and there was no separation of church and state?
Yes,
okay.
It's one of those
like
situations. But again, like the way they instituted like this huge ass change in the country was they blamed like terrorist attacks.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like what they did was they said, oh, we need better security, and for better security you have to give up some of your rights.
Interesting. Okay. So
and it goes back to that whole Benjamin Franklin argument.
You give up safety for
give up rights,
freedom for safety.
Yeah, that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting off topic. But another movie that was told to me in the height of the pandemic was, and I haven't seen it. We'll have to have an episode of when we come back and I actually get to watch it because you guys are going to berate me for admitting that I haven't seen this yet. Was V for Vendetta. Mm-hmm. Apparently, at the start of the pandemic, there was a lot of people were posting about similarities of government policy being similar to V for Vendetta, and I never watched it. I mean, I own it. I haven't watched it yet, but so that might be. Well, my wife has it on DVD, and I haven't watched it. But anyway, so we'll have another episode where Mitchell reacts to V for Vendetta. And, this is gonna happen, you guys. Jesus Christ, Guy Fawkes had it right. Anyway, so we had some of the major anti-mask challenges out. Any of the ridiculous pro masks? Okay, driving with a mask. Or no, two masks. Let's talk two masks.
God. I mean, all right. The principle is sound. Like, it makes sense to wear two masks. You won't catch me doing it. Because it's just like, at some point you reach overkill. Like, I could wrap myself in plastic every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen, you've seen the memes of the people at the store with like the pool noodle.
Oh yeah, those are amazing.
Thing. It's like, that's just too much, man.
Yeah.
Or like going shopping in a hazmat suit. It's like,
yeah.
Calm down.
But then again, I go back to, look, they're not breaking the law. They want to do what they want to do. I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care. I mean, I have a problem with less clothes. I have no problem with more clothes. You can...
depends on who's wearing the less clothes.
Exactly. But I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead and riff.
It's great. It's great podcast term.
This is great. Dead air is just
Dead air is awesome.
It's just a breadwinner.
No, but to go along, like the whole, like wearing two masks, wearing more than what is recommended. Like, you got to think, like, at the end of the day, the people that are making these recommendations are professionals in the fields in which they work. They have spent years developing the skills and the brains to do what they do.
This is a great point that I'm going to disagree with you on, but this is another great discussion, is the issue of professionals deciding policy.
Okay.
Because we didn't vote for the professionals.
That's true.
This became this is a great point that you're making. This might break into another discussion, but it was something we can at least touch on, is our county health advisor, PhD Ferrer, not a medical doctor, a little biased, instituting these policies that the politicians just follow and say the professional said this and they just follow. And that's why they got into a huge divisive debate about Dr. Fauci and all of our major health advisors, because in a sense, for a while there, they were deciding the policy. They'd come out and recommend something, or the CDC would come out and recommend something, and it would just go into policy. And a lot of people were like, look, well, what do our politicians say? Because that's who we voted for.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you can move somewhere else. Like
Well, and I would say that, people like Anthony Fauci, organizations like the CDC, they don't decide policy. They merely make recommendations, and it's up for our politicians, our elected officials, to either ignore it or implement it.
Absolutely.
So I can't say anything bad about Anthony Fauci, and this goes into a deeper kind of where like the policies become divisive, and where like people get upset about, the CDC said this, I don't agree with it. I'm going to ignore that and go with what I read online.
Yeah.
Because I think Anthony Fauci has an agenda. What you need to understand about science doesn't have an agenda. Science is just there to make recommendation.
Right.
And they do that through experimentation and innovation.
I would just say that science, that's true. Science doesn't have an agenda. A scientist might.
A scientist might, but I mean, if they're truly a good scientist, they're merely just going to report the facts, and it's up for the policymakers to do what they do with that information.
Right. I just like what you mentioned. These people work their whole lives and they got a thing, and it seems like they're professionals because they've worked their whole lives doing it, and it's up to the politician. God save them. I wouldn't want to do it.
Neither would I.
To decide which professionals they decide is legitimate and decide to enforce policy on or invoke policy based on. Because there was a lot of like mandates in California and especially the schools, which that'll be a whole episode too, is a discussion of schools opening and policy based on schools based on our politicians' law and the professionals he cited. Or not cited. There was a lot of policies about California schools that they were like, hey, fuck the science. We're still going to remain closed. Science says it's safe. We're still going to stay closed. That kind of.
And I mean, I can see where that could be a problem. Like we in California, especially, we've had so many protests about open up the schools. I mean, my school, we have reopened. We're still maintaining pandemic protocols. We have to wear masks unless we're vaccinated. We still have to social distance. And we have a sign-in sheet that is a basic COVID questionnaire. It's
contact tracing.
Yeah, contact tracing. Whether or not that changes in the next couple weeks or not, I don't know. I just know since we've been back on campus, that has been the policy. I'm not necessarily up in arms about it. I get it. Even towards the end of a pandemic, you still have to be vigilant because all it takes is that one patient zero to ruin it for everybody. So I get it. I get why they're still, even though the government's saying, hey, it's fine, open up. I understand why places still want to be a little bit more careful.
Okay. I do see that point. The better safe than sorry kind of thing is one I just don't agree with. But in some cases, there's a lot of things like, yes, absolutely safe and sorry. But other things, it's like, look, we have to calculate risk here. I'm not going to drive to LA because it's too risky. I might get into a car accident and die.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ride my bike without a helmet. That's a great one. It's like, well, you might crash and you might be fine. It's a risk thing.
Yeah.
It does get different when you're discussing kids and parents letting their kids and governing kids. I don't even know the nightmare involving handling food with this pandemic. I don't even want to think about the nightmare of liability dealing with kids in this thing. So I understand, but there are real facts you can go back to, like when Katrina happened and the schools were closed for 6 months or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And the kids came back and they found that it was like they had regressed 2 years in that 6 months they weren't in class. And it's like, okay, what risk are we willing to take here, because as far as we know, and I might be wrong here, so cite me if I'm wrong, kids haven't been a huge transporter of it. There haven't been, compared to older people, there haven't been as many bad sicknesses and deaths with kids. So is this worth their education regressing? And I don't know. I'm not a professional in any way, but it's one of those things that, like, okay, are we sure this is a good idea? Okay. Are we sure this is right?
So the one thing you have to take into consideration is that, the kids, their rate of infection and them showing symptoms and them actually getting sick is significantly lower than adults.
But they're still carriers.
Right. Yeah, and a school, while it's full of kids, is also full of adults. Adults that are very susceptible to getting this virus.
Right.
So you have to keep that in mind. And as far as the whole comparing it to Katrina and students regressing, we didn't close schools. We did the distance learning thing. And while I will say as a teacher, and it is not as good as in class teaching, you're still able to provide a decent education through distance learning.
Better than nothing.
It's absolutely better than nothing.
Well, it's just good that our taxes went down because we're not paying for the full school experience. So.
Yeah. Now, I think a lot of the uproar is that...
That was a joke, by the way, for all those out of California. Our taxes did not go down. Sorry to cut you off.
It's all good. I think like a lot of the uproar that parents have is that they don't want their kids at home all day. And it's starting to interfere with their lives. But
we're gonna light up the comments with that one.
Yeah, we are.
How dare you?
But my feelings on that is, like, if you didn't want your kid at home, don't have a kid. Like, I'm sorry. Yep, blow it up. I'm for it.
Oh my God.
I'll engage you in the comments.
Of all, we agree that stop having kids. Oh my God, you people are none of you are qualified.
You fucking breeders.
You idiots. Like, do you know how ridiculous our education system is anyway? And you're just bringing more kids in it.
No, and I just based on what I've seen, like, at some of these protests in like the LA Unified School District, like all these parents that are just flipping out because as a teacher, and having interactions with parents of my students, they don't view, like, and especially like when I look at these the LA Unified School District protests, it's like you realize teachers are human beings too, right? We're not just cogs in a machine. We're human beings with lives. We have families of our own.
Oh, yeah.
And if we get sick, being a teacher, we don't make a shit ton of money. We don't make hardly any money. We don't do it for the money. If we get sick, that's it. Like, there's like a family can't survive on one income, not in California. And so I get the outrage. I do. Like, you want schools to open so you don't have to stay there and babysit your kids. I get that. I'm sorry. It sucks. This is a pandemic. This is an emergency situation. You need to adapt. So I get it. I have the sympathy there. What I don't have the sympathy for is you can't just force teachers back into the classroom in a dangerous situation.
Right. See, I come at it from a little bit more cynical point of view in that I agree, but for the wrong reasons. I believe a kid would learn way more sitting at home with a book than he would at a public school. So when the schools weren't open, I was like, well, okay, they're not learning their social, rules.
Yeah. So that's another big thing. They're not getting their social interaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in a lot of public schools, I believe with some kids, more harm is done than good. They can, if they were at home or just in a library for a day, I feel like they'd learn more than at a school. And obviously that varies from kid to kid. So that's kind of a not fair point. Well, we started with masks. Now we're on schools. But
there's only one obvious transition to go to now.
But like is COVID transmitted sexually? Yes.
I would imagine yes.
But I mean, every point you're making about the school, I think of a couple points I want to make. So I think that'd be a good episode. I think in the future is discussing schools and stuff. But because we can get into a whole discussion just on public schools in general.
Oh yeah.
And our very weird opinions about that. But so audience, I mean, are our weird weird opinions worth listening to? You will decide. You could ask my wife. I don't think I have very many sane things to say, but I'm opinionated as hell.
You brought up some really good points. I'll admit that. I'm a big enough man where I could admit that.
But I think that'd be a good spot to kind of wind down. I mean, I think I think the audience might get a bit of an idea of where we come from, policy wise, core value wise, just a little bit. And obviously, every topic's going to have open up some new core values that we didn't know we had. We'll be testing how we fight, I'm sure, at certain points.
This table might not be big enough.
We'll see.
We might need to bring in some weapons. Oh, hey.
Oh, God,
we got so many around.
For the listeners out there that aren't seeing the video, there's weapons everywhere in this room. Our host is a avid knife collector. What's the likelihood of one of these knives, like if I stuck it in someone, that it breaking? And
A lot of these look cheap, so I would imagine.
Unlikely, actually.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well, I won't test it. But I think that's a good spot to call it for this one.
I agree. And shall we start a customary send off? Fuck you, Mitch.
Hey, fuck you, Danny. You know what? I love you.
I love you too.
We'll see you later.